Hi, my name's Dan, and this video is the start of a series of videos that I'm doing on the absolute fundamentals of using visual script in blueprints in Unreal. And in this video I'm going to talk about events and have a first look at doing some very simple scripting. So if you don't understand the principle of what a blueprint is in Unreal, then you might need to go and find out about that. I do have a short series on my channel about blueprints, which are kind of pre-scripting stuff to help you get a background and understanding. So that would be a good place to start if you haven't done that already. In this video we're going to create a blueprint from scratch. We're going to show the 3 or 4 most common events that are used. So let's start by creating the blueprint and then talk about what an event is and try and show the use of them. So I'm just right-clicking in the content area. I'm going to choose blueprint class, and this is going to give me an empty blueprint effectively. I'm going to click on actor, so that's going to be the parent, and I'm going to give it the name my plate. And what I'm going to make is a little kind of touch plate thing that is on the floor that the character can walk on, and that this will do some of the triggering of stuff. Sorry, I should have said this is a standard third-person template project that I've created. So yeah, there's nothing special about it. It has the starter content, but yeah. So I'm going to open up the My Plate blueprint to edit it. Again, if you're not got some familiarity with the blueprint editor, there is a video in my previous series about that. So I'm going to start adding some components here. So the first thing I'm going to add is a cube, which is going to be the actual plate that you stand on. And I can't be bothered to change the name of it. Highlight it. And I'm going to, that's kind of a bit big for a cube. For a plate, so I'm going to change the scale. Just let me do the zooming in thing, hopefully. So I'm going to change the scale in the Z axis, so that's up and down. Instead of 1, I'm going to be 0.1. I tend to find that's reasonably good for little kind of flat plates that you can stand on. And the other thing I'm going to add to this is a collision box. So you can use like the static meshes for this, and you can use things that are visible, but I prefer to use the invisible boxes. But these things detect whether something has overlapped with them. I'm not going to do a lot of stuff about collision detection and overlap events and hit events, because that's a much more in-depth thing to go into. But I'm going to highlight the scene root first of all, because I want to parent off that rather than off the cube. And I'm going to just type in box, which gives a box collision. So what that gives is that yellow outline there is a collision box, which then will detect, well, it'll detect for the whole blueprint if any other actor overlaps it. Just as a refresher, if you didn't know, an actor is any entity that has a physical presence in the level in blueprint. I found it interesting that their default size for this is different from their default size for the cube. But let's highlight the box. There we go. And one thing that this has, as well as the normal transform stuff of location, rotation, and scale, it's also got a box extent. And I'm going to change the box extent to 50 in both X and Y, so that matches the width of the plate that we've got, and I don't need to change the size this way, but I tend to, and then I want to raise it up so that it's there we go. So it's kind of above the plate. It doesn't really matter if it goes below the plate because that'll just go down below the floor. And I'm going to compile and go back to my level. So here's my blueprint. I'm going to drag one of those in. You can see when you drag it in that the orange box is there, but when I play, you will not see that orange box. You just see the plate. So that orange box is invisible. And at the moment, when I walk over it, nothing's happening. Okay. So I'm going to go back into the editor, and we're going to go to the event graph, which is one of these three tabs up here. Don't worry, if you close it, you can always reopen it by finding it in the menus. When you first create a blueprint and you go into the event graph, you get these three boxes, and they have a tooltip. And let's zoom in, and they're also the same. This node is disabled and will not be called drag off pins to build functionality. And when you do know what you're doing, then you'll understand all of what that means, hopefully. These boxes are event nodes. So we're at the very start of the blueprint scripting, and I will, in the next video to this, do quite a lot more on the concept of nodes and wires. But for now, let's say that these boxes are each one of them is the start of a script. So at the moment, as it says, it's disabled. But if I want to put something in this to make it respond to something, then I can do that. And the way to do that is to find this. This is the exec pin, and the mouse cursor turns to a plus shape. And if I then press the left mouse button and drag, I get this white wire. And then when I let go, so the tooltip is saying press a new node. I haven't let go yet. I'm still holding on. When I let go, it then brings up a box, and the box gives me a whole load of things that I can do. And in fact, I've seem to have lost my wire. I'm going to type in print string. There we are. Right. So let's zoom out again. Put the zoom in on the script. So you can zoom in and out on the script using that. I'm just using the right mouse button. Sorry, not the right mouse button. The central mouse button. I'm rotating it, and it allowed me to go in so far, and then I held Control and zoom in, and it will allow me to zoom in further. So what I've got is event begin play. I'll explain that in a minute. I've got a wire from there to another node which is called print string, and this has various bits of information in it. Well, actually, you can see one which says in string. And I'm going to type in something different. There's a box there that I can type into. I'm going to say started. Okay. Now this says development only, and the reason for this is because if I were to publish this as a game, it's not much of a game at this point, then the print string nodes don't work in the game, and this is a good thing because they're used a lot for debugging and for finding out what's going on whilst you're developing stuff. And rather than making you go through and disable them all before you publish a game, they've made an executive decision at Epic that the print string nodes won't work when you publish a game, and that's fine. There's also a down arrow here. There's a lot more stuff you can do in here. So it's print to screen, which is what we want to do. It will print to a log as well. I don't know where that log's stored. We've got text color. We've got the duration of the text. And let's not worry about the key. We're just going to leave those as defaults at the moment. and hopefully we're going to demonstrate this thing working, and then I'll try and explain what's going on. So we've got an instance of the blueprint here in our level, and when we click Start, you'll see up here, no, it only happened briefly, so we're going to extend the time of that from 2 seconds to 10 seconds. Compile and go back, and if you watch at the top left of the viewport up here, in fact, let's see if we can highlight that by zooming in. When I press play, it'll bring up the word started, and that'll stay there for 10 seconds. And we can count all the seconds, and then it'll disappear. So this is maybe a bit slower than we want it. We can stop. All right. So let's try and explain what's happening. Let's go back into that script. So the red box here is the start of a script. This is a script, these two boxes connected by this one white wire. And an event node, so an event box, is something that will get triggered when that particular event happens. And on this event is begin play. So when you start play, any blueprints in your world that have a script attached to their event begin play node, those scripts will activate. Well, I can't tell you what order they will activate in, because they don't all activate all at once concurrently. They're one at a time, and it'll go through them all and then continue to play. The wire that we dragged off here is telling it what it's going to do, and it's going to do this print string, and you've seen we put some information into it. One thing that is quite important to get is that scripts go from left to right. So a red box triggers when the event happens, and it goes to whatever is connected to it on the right hand side, and that's exact. That's the execute line. That line says we're going to make something happen. Okay, so that's on event begin play. The other thing that happened was I created a node by dragging off this pin and letting go, and it brought up a box. Let's do that whilst it's not zoomed in. Yeah, let's show and get rid of the wire. If I highlight over this with a mouse and then hold Alt and then left click, it makes that wire disappear. So if I drag off again to a different, somehow I double clicked, then let go, you get this box of things that are possible. And it's, as many things are in Unreal, it's an overwhelming array of things that are possible. And the biggest problem with doing scripting in Unreal, in my opinion, is knowing what the name is for the node that you want and the thing that you can do, and knowing what you can do and what is not available. And that can get quite frustrating. You also see that there's a tick box here that says context sensitive, and if I untick that, it actually it gives me access to absolutely everything. I've always got a little process in my brain checking things that I say, and I'm aware actually that even when you unclick context sensitive, there are things that aren't available at that point that could be available. Let's put context sensitive back on. It's best to leave it on. Right, so we're going to reconnect that event begin play to that print string, because I like that. I'm going to have a look at these two others. So event actor begin overlap. So this is an event that happens. Remember, we put a collision box in this blueprint. This event will trigger when another actor overlaps with this actor, with an actor made from this blueprint. So we're going to do another print string off this event actor begin overlap. I'm just going to type in print, and that starts narrowing down what nodes are available, or to that name, and press enter, and it will give me another print string. And I'm just going to let's say on. And just so that it's easier to see, I'm going to keep that at 2 seconds, but I'm going to change the colour and I'm going to make this, what might be nice, it's a nice kind of bright green colour. Press OK. So now our expectation is when the player character walks onto the plate, it will trigger this string that says, print this string that says on onto the screen. We have to compile. We'll talk about compilation in a later video in this series. And press play. So we'll see the started string has happened because that happens when play starts. I'm going to move the character, and when I walk over, it triggers the text that says on. If I do it multiple times, you get multiply triggered. So every time we overlap, it triggers that node, that box, and any script that's attached to it. So we're going to go back in here and show you the other one. I'm just going to move this one out of the way, the event tick. We will do event tick in a minute or two. So there is a companion event to the actor begin overlap, which is actor end overlap, which is when an actor that is overlapping stops overlapping on this actor from this blueprint. But that one hasn't been put in as a default one that we might want to use. This is the fact that these are in here in this script is just there as a convenience. It's always possible to bring them in. So what if you want a new node in your graph, which is what this space is, it's called a graph. All you need to do is to right click anywhere in space, and it brings up the box for looking for different nodes. And I know it's event actor end. Event actor end overlap. There we go. I'm just going to zoom in a bit so you can see it. Not worry about this blue pin at the moment, and we'll just do another print string. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'll just press escape there to get rid of that wire. Is I'm going to do highlight this box and do Control C for copy, then move off it and do Control V, and I can paste a copy of that. But we just want to change the string to off. Okay. And once again, we need to compile. You need to get into the habit of compiling. Mind you, it will always try and compile if you try and run the game anyway. So we've started. We've got our box. It's got the word started up at the top left. And if we overlap, it goes on. And if we stop overlapping, it says off. On, off, on, off, on, off. Now, of course, because this is a blueprint and we're creating instances of it, we can have more than one, and it will do exactly the same. So we get the word started twice now because we have two instances of the blueprint, and both of them are triggered. So we can go on off on that one and on off on that one. Right. I'm going to take one of those out. So we've only got one in the scene anymore. So all I did was highlight it and press delete. Back into editing here. I just want to quickly show you I'm looking at these particular events, which are event begin play, begin overlap, actor begin overlap, actor end overlap, and we will look at event tick in a second. I'm just going to right click and type in event. If I spell it correctly, that will help. It's always the thing. I'm going to zoom in on here. And you'll see in this context-sensitive box, it shows us a load of stuff. But having typed in event, I can see all the events that are available. And there's become target, on reset. So I'm not going to explain those. Here's our begin overlap and end overlap. Here's hit. There's something to do with damage. And there's some here to do with input. So mouse input, touch input. And then physics. We've got begin play, which we've seen, end play. Destroyed, which is if you've got an object that you want to destroy in the game, that event is called on the object before it disappears. Got end play. There are not a huge number of these events available, but they're very, very useful, the ones that are there. Because I've typed in event, there's other things that are brought up, but these, if you look at the little icon, this F means that's not an event, that's a function, and that's something different. We'll do functions in a later video. That you can tell the icon for event because it looks like that. It's got this kind of like black arrow in it. And if we just press escape to get out, you will see in the on the node, first of all, you can tell it's event because it's red at the top, but also because it's also got that icon again, there, which is an arrow, which basically means this is an entry point for execution. Right, let's do the last of these nodes, which is the event tick. And event tick is incredibly useful, but you have to be a little bit careful how you use it, because this is an event that triggers every frame. So if you're not aware, most people are, when the game is running, it runs in a series of frames, and you tend to get, if you're lucky, about 60 frames in a second. And a frame is one time drawing everything that's on the screen. You're probably aware, again, because most people are, that actually what looks like something that's moving and dynamic is in fact a series of still images, one after another, but they're going very quickly. And so 60 of these still images a second, that looks quite smooth. And so it can take a variable amount of time for each frame to be drawn. So this event tick happens once each frame. And is useful for things that you want to happen continuously. So what we're going to do is we're just going to demonstrate this by putting a print string in it. Print string. Hopefully that brought it up. Yes. Why is this quite blurred? Anyway, I'm just going to. What I'm going to say on that. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag off from this. So this pin here says delta seconds. In the next video, I'll talk a bit about the difference between executable lines and data lines. So this, as well as giving us the trigger every frame, it tells us how long in seconds it is since the last frame was drawn. So this is obviously, or hopefully, every time it's a fraction of a second. I'm going to drag off there and mouse over the in string. Now they're different colors, which means they're different data types, but it automatically gives a converter between the two. If an easy converter is possible, it will automatically plug it in for us. So I'm just going to zoom out again. There we go. To compile. So I don't know if you want to predict in your head what's going to happen at this point when I press play. Here we go. And it's writing over and over again. So every frame that's writing now, it's basically because the frame rate is stable, mostly that's not changing. But as soon as we do something that makes it change, that's actually, it's hard to see, but it's giving us our on and off as well. So the blue text is telling us how long it is since the previous frame. And these texts, they stack, so the new ones at the top, unlike normal writing where you kind of imagine the next one be at the bottom. And it never disappears because it's forever writing more, because every frame it writes again. So hopefully that's given you a flavour for a start in visual scripting, and has given the idea of what an event is. We have, although we've got one graph here, we've actually got 4 scripts. So each one of these is a separate script, and they're triggered separately by the event that triggers the node. In the next video, I'm going to talk more about nodes and wires and flow of execution a bit, and the difference between an execute wire and a data wire. But that's it from me for now.